Hello, my name is Shaune Wales. I'm a third-year microbiology student at the University of California, Davis. First, I extend my gratitude to Dr. Liel for the invitation to participate in the event celebrating the Faculty Distinguished Research Award recipients. We pay tribute to the exceptional contributions of Dr. Nathan Kuppermann and Dr. Gail Goodman in their respective fields. Their dedication to advancing research exemplifies the highest standards of academic excellence. I want to share you about some insights about the Pediatric Emergency Care Applied Research Network, or PCARN. This network is a powerhouse in pediatric emergency medicine research and has been making waves thanks to the efforts of Dr. Nathan Kuppermann. One of PCARN's notable studies led by Dr. Kuppermann is to aim to identify children at very low risk of clinically important brain injuries after head trauma. This study was groundbreaking because it helped establish guidelines using an algorithm that could reduce the necessary scans in children, minimizing their exposure to radiation and associated risks. Dr. Kuppermann's work with the PCARN has been instrumental in enhancing the understanding of the emergency care in the pediatrics. His research has been led to the development of the rules from the algorithm to help doctors quickly assess the severity of head injuries in children. These rules are now used worldwide and improve the safety of efficiency in emergency care. So when we talk about PCARN, we are talking about a network that impacts millions of children around the globe, and thanks to leaders like Dr. Kuppermann with his work in PCARN. Thank you so much.
Hello, my name is Sydney McCann, and I'm a third-year undergraduate student here at UC Davis studying psychology. I really enjoyed Dr. Kuppermann and Dr. Goodman's lectures. In Dr. Kuppermann's lecture, I thought it was super interesting to hear how he was involved in reducing the number of CT scans given to kids with head trauma, which in turn reduces the radiation, so that's very important for the future. And then in Dr. Goodman's lecture, I thought it was super impactful to hear about all these stories that come from the kids that were taken out of homes where they were experiencing physical and sexual abuse, and when they were interviewed when they were younger versus when they were interviewed 20 years later, and how their development changed and their memory changed. And yeah, it was super important to hear all of that and see where all of this research is going. So I really enjoyed both lectures. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jude Haidar. I'm a freshman at UC Davis studying chemistry, and I would like to thank Dr. Goodman and Dr. Kuppermann for presenting their lectures. Today I would like to talk and make an abstract about Dr. Kuppermann's lecture on how corticosteroids affect developing brains. We see that children who have eczema often use corticosteroids to treat it. However, corticosteroids can have negative effects. We see that depression, anxiety, and brain fog are among a variety of symptoms that have been reported with the use of these medications. He also showed us how oftentimes these children who have eczema often have other difficulties related or not, such as anxiety or asthma. Over 60% of children who have severe eczema do develop asthma in their lifetime. Dr. Kuppermann also has been involved in large studies. For example, he had a study where in over 600 children who used steroid medications to treat bronchiolitis, he found that the steroids did not improve their respiratory symptoms. We know that corticosteroids can have both good and bad effects, and I believe that Dr. Kuppermann highlighted this in his lectures. I just want to say thank you to Dr. Goodman and Dr. Kuppermann once again for presenting. I thoroughly enjoyed both of your lectures, and congratulations on your award.
During Dr. Goodman's lectures, she talked about an experiment that involved children who had endured child abuse. She interviewed them twice, first being when they were really young, closer to when the abuse happened, and then again 20 years later, so when they were adults. In their studies, they found that memory for these negative, stressful experiences was stronger versus when they asked about something positive or a neutral experience. And so similarly, maltreated and non-maltreated children will remember stressful central information better than peripheral information. The more trauma symptoms they had, the more likely they were to remember, and the better their long-term memory of it was for the future. And so this went along with what they thought was the evolutionary theory, which is that we are adapted to remember survival information very well.
Dr. Kuppermann gave a talk on his last 20 years of work on pediatric emergency care. When his work started, there was very minimal evidence-based practices that were being conducted within emergency care for pediatrics. In fact, in the 90s, many regular hospitals were not able to efficiently take care of their pediatric patients. So, Dr. Kuppermann decided to do something about that. Since then, he has conducted many research projects that have become regular practice within pediatric emergency care. Although his research was important, he emphasized that it was networking and translating this research into practice is that what made it so impactful. By starting up the Pediatric Emergency Care Applied Research Network, or PECARN for short, Dr. Kuppermann was able to do just that. By translating his research into regular practice, his work became very impactful throughout the nation. Dr. Kuppermann, I'd like to thank you for having us at your speech, and of course, I would like to congratulate you on the Academic Senate's Faculty Research Award. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Ivan Lujan. I'm currently a microbiology student here at UC Davis. I had the pleasure of attending Dr. Goodman's lecture about traumatic events to the effect of children and adults. Dr. Goodman focused her lecture into the diversity of traumatic events and how they can influence memory in a longitudinal study. Memory was measured in the study by actions, such as remembering if a doctor took pictures of them, or even if a doctor had touched their private parts during the initial study, with recall being the major key factor to determine how their past traumatic events influence this ability to recall their moments with the doctor. This study was actually initially placed into 328 children, and then 20 years later, when the study was concluded again, 150 of them came back as the same subjects to conclude how their memory had affected them in the years after. And it seemed, as the results came in, that it was interesting to actually see that after 20 years, people with more post-traumatic symptoms or past traumatic events were actually able to recall more about what happened to them, specifically when it came to moments such as being touched in their private parts or other post-traumatic events that might have happened to trigger specific memory recalls, such as being taken pictures of them and many more. And it was interesting to see these results, not only to the implications of what can be held into the legal standard, but as well into parenting. And I really like to thank Dr. Goodman for her lecture and her interesting outlook on how past traumatic events can affect children and adults in the long term.
My name is Shaveta Papolu, and I'm currently an undergraduate at UC Davis studying global disease biology. I really enjoyed watching the faculty distinguished research lectures on Wednesday. I thought they were both really interesting and informative. In particular, Dr. Kuppermann's research on pediatric emergency care and PECARN really stood out because I thought it was so interesting to see the research side of medicine and healthcare and how it goes hand in hand with the actual treatment of patients. The specific studies that he explained, such as the decision rules for if a child needs a CT scan or not, are so important and necessary in pediatric emergency healthcare, but in healthcare in general. Dr. Goodman's lecture was also very interesting, and her research had to do with the relationship between child maltreatment and memory. And though her research seemed difficult considering the subject matter, she explained the key takeaways, such as how our memory is formed, what we deem necessary to remember, and how this is applicable to various fields and various types of people. Overall, thank you so much, Drs. Kuppermann and Goodman, for the interesting and educational lectures. I really enjoyed hearing about your research, and thank you for taking the time to talk to us.